Hey friend, welcome to Healthy with Heather Brown. If you don't know where to start with balancing being healthy and loving the life you already have, I got you, friend. And yes, of course, we're still going to enjoy some Chick-fil-A. I'm here to come alongside you and encourage you to fall more in love with your creator, your spouse, your kids, and your own health journey. We'll talk about how to let your good things grow until they become daily habits, with the occasional dad joke and point of view from my Yankee hubby, Eric. Don't stress. Let's hop on this Hot Mess Express together. So join me, Heather Brown, as we unpack what it looks like to live a life well loved. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Healthy with Heather Brown. I am so excited to welcome today's guest, Phylicia Masonheimer, which when she comes on, I'm definitely going to make her correct me if I just butchered her name. But she is not only an author, she also has a Instagram account that I really want you guys to check out. It's called Every Woman a Theologian is her book. And she truly has just captured the art of making Bible study for women attainable. And she wants women to be able to speak into other women's lives without feeling like this pressure of not being a pastor or a small group leader. And so when I came across her Instagram and her reels, I thought, yes, this is amazing. So without further ado, I want to welcome Phylicia Masonheimer to talk all things mental health and church with us. Welcome, Phylicia.
Thanks for having me, Heather.
Yeah, of course. Did I butcher your name?
No, you actually did it perfectly.
Yes. Okay, great. You never know. You never know. So Phylicia, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you. Can you share a little bit about how you started your website and podcast, and then what makes you excited to roll out of bed in the morning?
Oh, great questions. So I am the founder of Every Woman a Theologian, which is a ministry teaching women how to know what they believe, live it boldly, and communicate it graciously. And my book is by the same name. My most recent book is Every Woman a Theologian. So we love talking about how to know God's word and apply it, and also how to live it in a way that is loving. And that is really my mission, our team's mission. And it's just been a joy to see what God has done through our work over the years. As for what gets me excited to get out of bed in the morning, well, I love mornings. So that alone is a little bit of a motivator for me, but
very helpful.
I have the privilege both homeschooling my kids and running the ministry. And while it's a huge juggle, there's always something super exciting about both of those things to me. I love teaching my kids. I love being with my kids. And I also love teaching women the Bible. And I get to do both of those things in some capacity each day. So that is something that makes me excited to get up, because every day is different, but our rhythms are very similar and very joyful. And so I just enjoy the life that we've been blessed with.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually don't think, Phylicia, that I've had anyone on the podcast yet that has been a homeschool mom. And you said the word balance and how you kind of work on doing that and having a team. What came first? Did you homeschool first? Did you start your ministry first?
So I myself am a homeschool graduate, and I worked as a college counselor to homeschool families traveling around the United States before I was in ministry. So cool. I've been working with the homeschool world almost my entire life. And I planned on homeschooling my kids before I ever had children. So that's been a part of my story. And then when my children got to school age, we just started doing it. But as for the ministry, that I also have been doing for 10 years. So my oldest is 7. So before I had her, I was just doing it part-time, just as something that I loved. I had a career as a homeschool college counselor, and I did not plan on going into full-time ministry, but I loved breaking down the Bible. I had a religion degree. And so it was just something that I thought was just a gift God had given me for the side for my local community. And then the Lord just continued to open doors. Eventually, I left my full-time job as a counselor and went on to do what I do now full-time. And so my religion degree, which I got because I just loved it and loved the topic, really ended up becoming something I needed for what I do every day. So just a huge privilege. And I'm still always learning and growing and learning how to balance the things that we do. But again, it's so much fun.
Yes, for sure. So when you talk about that, I heard you use the term rhythm, which I feel like that's something that, as we kind of been unpacking mind-body connection a little bit here at Healthy with Heather Brown and My Life Well Loved, that is one thing that I'm learning more about, is what a healthy rhythm looks like for me, and balancing literally mind, body, spirit, and our family life, all the things. So what are some rhythms that you found that are working really well for you right now?
So I was blessed to grow up in a home where my mom had 6 kids. She homeschooled. My dad was self-employed and running the business from home. So because of that, there were a lot of similarities, and my mom had to have systems in place in order to manage everything she was doing. So I had the advantage of an example, but then I had to customize that for our family and what our life looks like, because it is different. My mom wasn't working. She was just homeschooling. So it's different when you're working. And so a couple of the things that have really helped me, I obviously said I do love the morning, but getting up early and getting a start on the day. I'm actually a lot more introverted than many people think when they meet me. And I have to have that quiet to start the day, or I just enter it feeling like I'm entering utter chaos. I need that quiet. So getting up early, and then I systemize almost everything that needs to be done daily. So things like dishes and managing toys, laundry, cleaning, I have a system for all of these. So a certain type of laundry we do each weekday, a certain zone of the house we clean each weekday. And my kids are taught to do that alongside me. So my 7, 5, and 2-year-old each have little jobs that they participate in, and they help to manage the home. So they're not only more invested, but they're also taking a little bit of that weight off of me and my husband, because he's around too. And so there's an element of the whole family as a team. And we're also a team in the ministry. And so we're working together to both provide for our family, provide for our team, and take care of the home. And so systemizing those things has allowed us to really keep the home from descending into complete chaos. And I can think more clearly because it isn't in utter chaos. And we're also able to just transition from chores to school to then my work time to then our evening leisure time with a lot more peace.
Yes, that makes so much sense. And you're so right. I've been doing a lot of research recently on how much clutter can affect your brain and your spirit and just the way that you can work. It really is wild how scientific they've actually gotten with it now. And when you were talking about that, I had never heard of cleaning zones of the home on a weekday until, do you follow Clean Mama on Instagram by chance?
Yes, I love her.
She's so awesome. So anyway, we can link up her resources, but she has been a really eye-opening resource for me to have in my life when it comes to that. But what does it look like for you day to day? Because you're homeschooling, you're doing this full-time ministry, you're writing books, you're trying to find your rhythms. What does it look like specifically for you and your family to live out your faith day to day? And for your kids, like, do they join you in your quiet time like they do your cleaning? I just love to hear how that works in your home.
Yeah, I love this question because everybody's home is different. Everybody's life is different. So it has to be customized to you. But for us, one of my concerns in being a ministry family is that, your kids grow up in a home where it's just Jesus all the time everywhere, and maybe not in a way that's healthy and like livable. And that's not what I want for my kids. But also we want them, like Deuteronomy 5 says, we want them to hear the word of God when they come and go and sit and rise. And so we've just tried imperfectly to just make faith a part of our home. And so like a great example is just this morning, we really try to eat all of our meals together. So we try to eat one meal a day together if we can. That's really a priority for us. Sometimes because we're all home all the time, we eat all 3 meals together. It just depends. But at those meals, it's a great time to do what we call mealtime discipleship. And that's where we just talk about faith, where we talk about life. What's your favorite thing that happened today? What's something you learned today? But this morning we read from a kid's book about theology and just like teaching about heaven. What's heaven like? That was a topic today. And so after we finished just reading for 5 minutes, the girls started asking, well, what would that be like? What would we eat up there? So we all went around the table like, well, what would you want to eat, when we're with Christ in heaven? And they're like, chocolate,
awesome.
Chick-fil-A, whatever. And so, it's just things like that you're actually having these theological conversations as you just go about your normal life. It's not like, okay, children, sit down in your buttoned up little, shirts and let's all have a formal Sunday school lesson. It's just like, hey, we talked about this as we were eating for 5 minutes. And then later in the day, maybe they ask a question. As for whether they're with me during my quiet time, I do try to be flexible with my time in the Word. Obviously, I like to do it in the quiet, but a lot of times that doesn't happen. kids are up in the night, whatever, you end up having to be in the Word later in the day, then yes, they're right there with me. And I actually will say, hey, if you want to be here, you can play quietly and I'll either read aloud to you, or you can play quietly and I'll read it to myself, but I'm going to be finishing this. So you need to wait till I'm done and then we'll get up and go about our day. Obviously, I don't do that with like 6-month-old babies, but with older kids, it's something they've gotten used to seeing. It's just me being in the Word in front of them. And now they mimic it. Like they get their own little basket or their own little Bible and try it out once in a while. So it can be a very realistic, natural thing in the middle of the day.
One of the most popular questions I hear is, how do you do it all? Or, can I pick your brain? And I always laugh because my knee-jerk reaction is, oh girl, I don't do it all. And now I have a way to let you pick my brain about my business. I have an incredible team of women helping me manage my crazy behind the scenes and keeping my life well loved and this podcast running smoothly. Because Lord knows I'd be a hot mess express trying to do it all myself. This year, I launched a course where I finally do a deep dive and share all the raw details about how I built my business and team to where it is today. My COO, Alyssa, and I recorded over 2 hours of video into 9 lessons to create a course that reviewers are saying is unlike anything else out there. Hey, their words, not mine. But hold on, the videos aren't all. I'm going to read you my list of what it includes so I don't forget any of it. There's a 28-page workbook with questions to move you from stuck as a solopreneur to thriving as a team, or even just hiring your first assistant, with smart goals and steps to guide you from point A to point B efficiently. A behind-the-scenes look at our application, hiring process, and critical onboarding process, my cannot-miss first step in hiring a new employee, and how to cultivate a team buy-in. There's a deep dive on my team's inner workings, our operating systems, favorite apps, and index full of time-saving tools we use to keep our team running smoothly. If you're ready to take your business, side hustle, or network marketing lifestyle to the next level and grow a team, I'm your girl. Head to www.mylifewellloved.com/team to grab yours today. That's awesome. I love that. And I love how you said that then get their own little basket and almost take their own ownership in it. And Phylicia, I want to bring us back a little bit because I realized even when I introduced you, I should have said for somebody that's listening to this that maybe isn't a Christian or isn't a believer or just listen to this podcast because they're interested in their mind, body, physical health, all the things. Can you explain just what a theologian and what theology is first? Let's take it back to A.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is a word that can feel very foreign. So theology is just the study of the nature of God, who God is, what he does in the world, how we understand him. And everyone has a theology. Even non-Christians have a theology. Muslims have theology. We all have assumptions about who God is and how he works in the world, or who God isn't and how he's not there. Or that's an atheistic theology. So we all have those ideas, those worldviews. And for Christians, it's important to know whether the assumptions you have about God, your assumptive theology, is actually what the Bible teaches. And so that's kind of what we do at Every Woman a Theologian, is we equip women to know, okay, this is what Jesus said about himself. And let's make sure that what we believe about Jesus is actually true.
Yeah, I so agree with that. Actually, there's a pastor here in Birmingham. Where are you based again, Phylicia?
Northern Michigan. So basically Canada.
Do you still have snow on the ground?
Yeah, so we will through April.
Oh, wow. Okay. I literally wore shorts to the gym today. It was like, it's in 70, 75.
Don't tell me.
I know. I'm like, come visit anytime. But one thing that Pastor Buddy always says here in Birmingham at one of our churches, he always says the most important thing about you is your concept of God. And he was like, that's true whether you're a Christian or not a Christian, you're an atheist, whatever it is. And it's like, when I heard that, I was like, that is such a simplistic way to put it, but it really does make so much sense. So that was a light bulb moment for me. Okay, so then I have a lot of mamas listen to this that either are homeschool moms or not homeschool moms. They're all different ages and stages of motherhood. Why do you think every woman needs to understand theology and its connection to our lives?
As you just said, your idea of God is the most important thing about you. Like, how you understand God actually dictates your idea of who you are, your concept of your purpose in this world, how you teach identity to your children, if you have them, or how you interact with other people, how you understand them, how you understand how to relate to them, how you understand death and grief and suffering. All of that relates back to your view of God. And so that's why I really believe that it's important for all people to really wrestle with those things and wrestle with, first of all, how they've been taught who God is, because a lot of people are taught things about God that aren't true. And then they don't check them against scripture itself or the rich history of faith we have for the last 2000 years in Christianity to even say, oh, is this actually accurate? So we even adopt views of God from media, the TV shows we watch. We watch something and it shows Christians doing really evil, hateful things. And we think that's how all Christians are, or that's how the church has always been. When in reality, that's only one small, very extreme portion of the church. And it's being put on this TV show. So you think it represents the whole. And that's, not fair. It's not logical. It's not historical. And so we have to actually check, okay, is what I'm picking up from my culture, from my family of origin, from maybe a really unhealthy church I was in, I need to make sure that that actually lines up with who God said he was and how Christians understood him for 2000 years and understand what Christians actually did for culture and for other people throughout those 2000 years of church history. And so that all can easily be done from our living room, through podcasts, through, a little bit of research, spending time in the Bible. And I really encourage every Christian woman, and even those who are just Christian curious, who are listening, who aren't Christians and are just like, hey, I thought this about Christianity. Check it against the truth, find out what's actually true. And it will make you more confident in your conversations with other people or in your understanding of your own faith.
Yes. And this is just a quick tangent, but I have to tell you, you talked about Christianity and TV shows and stuff like that. Have you watched The Chosen yet on Amazon Prime?
Yes, we've seen all 3 seasons.
Okay, my husband and I just started season 3. We are loving it. I mean, I really like how relatable the characters feel because you're right. A lot of times when you watch portrayals of the Bible or Jesus on TV from other, episodes or movies or things that people have done over the years, they don't feel as relatable as I feel like where you're like, oh my gosh, the disciples actually fought like brothers about how they thought Christ should play out his ministry. And you're like, wow, okay, it's not just me that like gets so caught up in this dumb day-to-day stuff, So anyway, if you haven't checked it out, please watch it. It's so good. It is Amazon Prime, right?
It's on Angel Studios for sure, for free. And maybe it is on Amazon. I'm not sure.
I think how we're watching it is on Amazon, but yes, I do see the Angel Studio. So Google it, whatever service you have, you can find it. It's so good. Then getting back to kind of like the meat of what you were saying, one thing that you kept talking about was your identity and where you find your confidence from, like all these things. And I talk with women every day about their like physical struggle with their body and not having confidence in it. I would love for you, if you don't mind, just speaking a little bit as we're going into bathing suit season and we're going into when everybody starts panicking, like, oh my gosh, all that I've been eating before spring break or summer. Do you mind just speaking a little bit into how to find the confidence to just like put on the bathing suit and to be God honoring with your body, with your thoughts about your body? I just think that's such a struggle for women right now.
It definitely is a struggle. I struggle with it at times for sure, because look at our culture, look at everything that they say. So many mixed messages where it's like, just love your body as it is. But then also look at the only models we show look like this, or, people are getting work done that a lot of women can't afford or ethically don't agree with. And so it's a comparison game where nobody can win. And so it's very discouraging. But a couple years ago, wrote a poem, because I'm also a poet, about how ridiculous this is in light of the Christian faith and in light of what women have done historically in Christianity. When we think about women in the Bible, so, Tabitha or Priscilla or Mary or Martha, what's the first thing we think about with them? Whether they had a 6-pack, whether they were a size 4, whether they had cellulite, like it's ridiculous, but we never think about that with them. Or even if you want to go to historical figures, does anybody care what Marie Curie looked like under her clothes? Nobody cares. Like, we don't care because we remember her for what she did. We remember her for her mind. We know that she was an amazing woman. Well, and then we look at ourselves and we measure ourselves by a standard we would never use for women in scripture or women in history, as if we're somehow different. And so that weird tension is something that I realized myself. And when I would start to go into this body shaming spiral, when I would go on Instagram or Pinterest and see something that I was like, oh, darn it, I've had 3 kids. I weigh 10 pounds more than I used to. I need to do something fast about that. That's what I would go back to is, yes, I have an identity in Christ that's unchangeable. And also, what I look like on the outside cannot alter that at all. Who am I actually trying to please? As Galatians says, am I here to please man or to please God? If I still wanted to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ. And really, a lot of this goes back to wanting to please people and get their applause or get their approval or attention instead of pleasing God. And then, of course, you can work on your body from that place, but you're working towards health from a place of security, not from a place of insecurity or competition.
Or even depletion or looking for quick results, like you said, because a lot of times when women get themselves in trouble is when they are just looking for those quick results. And then that is just defeating you even more because you feel like, okay, well, I basically killed myself and ate 1,200 calories for 3 weeks to go on spring break. But then you come back and you eat like a normal human being again. And you're like, why do I gain all the weight back? And so I really do believe, just like how within your faith, like if you're a believer, God is refining you like 1% at a time every day. You just have to be faithful to show up in the word. It's the same way with your body. Like he's given you this body to take care of. You have to show up just 1% every day, working on all the parts of you for sure. So this is kind of changing the subject a little bit. We talked some about how you were one of 6 kids, which is so impressive, by the way, from your mom. You made a reel recently talking about how your parents raised 6 kids and y'all are all believers. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
That's wildly awesome, first of all. Obviously, the Lord is sovereign and we can't guarantee that our kids will believe. But I'd love for women in the community to hear, what do you feel like your parents did well that shaped your worldview and helped you guys, come to know the Lord?
Well, I think it's important to note that my parents were baby believers when they were married, and they were married at 22 and they had me by their next anniversary. So,
oh my
very
word.
young,
Wow,
very young baby believers. And they both had a lot to overcome from their childhoods. And yet they were able to give this foundation that led to all 6 of us walking with the Lord, and not just walking with the Lord imperfectly again, like we're not perfect 6 kids, but walking with him, but truly in love with him and wanting to follow the Lord. So I've thought about that. Wow, like how did my parents do that now that I'm a parent? And a couple of things stand out. First of all, they lived their faith in front of us. They did not just speak words. That was huge. And growing up as someone in, I was in the age of purity culture, conservative homeschool world, a lot of people who I knew, kids growing up in that same world, walked away. And so I've wondered, why not us? And a lot of it had to do with the fact that my parents were not legalistic. They weren't perfect, but they were not legalistic. So everything that they said, they also tried to live. Even the things that I do differently from them, I can look back and say, okay, at least they were trying to live in accordance with what they said they believed. My parents never required any of us to read the Bible. Not once. I checked with my siblings about this because I was like, am I remembering correctly? We were never required to read the Bible. We were never told, hey, read these passages, memorize this. We would study scripture in our school time, and my dad read it aloud to us on Sundays and in the morning before he went to work. But we were not actually required to. And I think that's so interesting because it almost left this freedom where they said, look, as long as you're in our home, we're going to be reading this to you. We believe it. It's true for us, but you have to decide for yourselves. And ultimately, we all did decide because we saw that consistency between their character and their words. And we saw them trying to follow God in real time. And so even though, all of us have our own testimonies and struggles that we've been through on our walk with God, that lack of hypocrisy, that consistency is, I think, a huge key in why we remained in the faith.
Hi, friend. Are you enjoying this episode? Hit that plus sign in the top right of your Apple Podcast app, or the follow button in your Spotify app, or wherever you're listening. That way you automatically get each new episode without having to search for it. You're welcome. I love that so much. And I feel like I'm talking so much to you because I'm enjoying all that you're saying. I'm like, I got to go a little bit faster to get through some of the questions that I'm also dying to ask you. So forgive me that I'm like going so fast. I'm like rapid fire. So speaking of young people, will you talk a little bit about the Asbury revival with us? I saw you shared a lot about this on your Instagram during the time. And my main question to you is really, why do you think that we as Americans are so skeptical of revival? Because to me, that's kind of a red flag in and of itself.
I think you're right. It is a red flag in and of itself. I saw this meme that said Americans praying to God, God, send us a revival. And then the revival comes and they say, no, not like that.
Get back in your box, God.
Yeah, stop it. And I've even heard people saying, well, look, now the revival's over. They stopped having these, services. So the revival's over. And I just think that's so silly because the people who were there and who experienced the Lord at this revival, at the different college locations where it was happening, the churches where it was happening, they still have the Holy Spirit working in their hearts. And now they've gone out into the world and community. And there is more of the work of God happening now that they're out in the world. It's not like just because it's no longer happening on social media means that God's no longer working or the revival is no longer happening. There are still things happening that are just less publicized that are now expanding across the US. And they're there if you want to look for them. You can hear the stories of what God's still doing through these young people. But when it was at its height, when Asbury Revival was, at its height of the long-term services and the worship services, there was a lot of skepticism and cynicism that I was seeing, probably because I'm in the theology and apologetics world. So I'm seeing a lot of colleagues and people saying, like, you should be skeptical, you should be testing the spirits, which is true. 1 John 4 says to test the spirits. But 1 John 4 says to test the spirits, and then it says how to do that. And it says, if the spirit that is preached is not Christ, it is not of God. But if the spirit of what's happening is centered on Christ, then it's of God. There you go. That's how you test the spirits.
Seems pretty simple and straightforward.
Very simple, straightforward. So if you only share the first part that says test the spirits, but not the how that he gave, well, it's incomplete. You're not sharing the whole process. And if we look at what happened at Asbury and Cedarville and Sanford and everywhere else that it went, we saw that Christ was being exalted. People were repenting. People were being healed even. They're being prayed over. There was amazing Christ-centered stuff being done. And if you look at the history of revivals over the course of American history and the global scale, you're always going to have extremist wackos, for lack of a better term, on the edges. Like, yes. It draws those kinds of people because they like sensationalism, they like the limelight, and they like to be at the center of that kind of visibility. And so you're always going to have that, but that doesn't negate the goodness of what God is doing at the center of something. And I would say we should always celebrate, especially a young generation coming to God in this way, and pray that they then go out and continue to walk in that.
Yes, I so agree with that. I have a lot of things that I want to say, but I'm going to go to the next question so we can get through it. I'm like, it's killing me. Okay. I'm like, maybe we need a part 2. Who knows? So can you speak to the tendency in our culture of looking to medical and scientific communities as a substitute God, as opposed to having our God in the right place? Obviously, these things are necessary, but we were talking in Bible study recently about what we tend to do when things go wrong. Like, instead of running, to our biblical mentors and our pastors and our small group leaders, we're running to psychologists and therapists and doctors. So I'd love to maybe just hear your take on how you think that's played out over the past 2 or 3 years and what the church can do to help us look back to the Lord first and foremost.
This is actually deeply concerning to me. And it's been concerning to me for the last 5 years. I've only recently spoken more on it. And I want to, before I say anything, say that I have deep respect for the scientific community and what God has gifted them to do, what he's gifted them to discover. He set the natural laws in place. So science is very important. At the same time, we need to remember, what is the fundamental worldview of the person that we're talking to? What is their fundamental outlook on life? What is their view of your purpose, your identity, your sexuality, your created being? Because if their fundamental theological worldview is an atheistic one, you and they have very little in common in terms of understanding purpose, identity, any of that. You honestly are standing on 2 different planets when it comes to those big deal issues. So then when you're going to that person for counsel on major mental, spiritual issues, because you cannot separate the physical, mental from spiritual, which I know you talk about in your podcast.
We talk about that all the time. Mind-body connection. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And the Bible teaches that. All of Leviticus talks about the connection between the soul and the body. All of the New Testament talks about the connection between the soul and the body. 1 Corinthians, this is why Paul says, do not sin sexually because it affects you spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. Like this is all one piece. You can't separate them. So here's what's wild. In the past 30 years or so, the Christian church did a really poor job of dealing with things like mental health and things like the physical body. And in some church traditions, especially in more charismatic church traditions, there's even this kind of word of faith doctrine where they'll say, if you have a physical ailment, then that's a lack of faith and you need to be healed from your lack of faith. It's a twisted version of the book of James. But that's not always true because we know Jesus healed people and he did say, hey, I'm going to free you of your sin and then I'm going to heal your body. He always did both. But at the same time, there were hundreds of thousands of people that were alive when Jesus was alive and he didn't heal them. So what does that mean? Paul says, I have a thorn in my flesh. I've asked you to heal me. He didn't heal him. So we know that God sometimes does not heal for reasons we don't know. I had a chronic illness. I dealt with this question myself. So then what does that mean for understanding spirit and body and who we go to with these questions? I think we have to recognize this is a both and. You cannot treat a physical ailment, a mental ailment as only physical or mental. It is not that simple. There is a spiritual element here and you cannot ignore it as a Christian. There is always a spiritual element. And so when people say, oh, well, it's just like, taking ibuprofen for a headache. No, it's not. And even if you have a headache, I would say, you should even treat that as a spiritual and physical thing. How can I come to the Lord in this simple pain that I'm experiencing in the day? Yes, I might take the medicine, but also, are there lifestyle changes that I need to make that the Lord is teaching me? Is there self-control I need to have? If I drink coffee all day, never drink water, and eat awful food, and then I have headaches and I only take ibuprofen, I'm not walking in God's wisdom for my human body, am I? And I'm probably not walking in self-control. And I'm even using a caffeinated drug, if you will, as something I depend on for my mood. So these are all things that are spiritual, mental, and physical together. And we have to treat it as one unit because that's what the Bible teaches, because the Bible honors human bodies. We've come to a point in our age where people are riding the pendulum away from this, like, just pray it away kind of model to, I don't pray at all. I don't seek God about it at all. I just go to my secular psychologist or my secular doctor. I never even consider the fact that God wants me to be engaged spiritually with my body. And that is going to result in major, major problems theologically down the road if we don't catch it and understand that God cares about us spiritually, mentally, and physically, and he needs to be a part of how we treat all those things.
I could not agree with you more. I'm so glad that you talked about this, Phylicia, but I would also even caution you that a lot of times people say, well, I'm going to a Christian counselor. But then when they tell me the things that their Christian counselor is telling them, I'm like, that's not biblical. Like, sure, they can slap that name on there, but if they're not living out things that from our church that we both go to that are what the Bible says, then that's an issue. And you're right. It's so much deeper than whatever your physical and mental burden is. It's spiritual to start with.
Right. The enemy wants to use things that are the product of a fallen world to separate us from God, to tell us we don't need God and that God doesn't care. What's so wild is that we're reacting against a theology that said, God doesn't care about your body, just pray it away, just ignore it, right? But now we're saying, God doesn't care about your body, so don't pray at all, just go to a completely secular source. And both of those are wrong. Right? We're literally saying the same thing, just the flip side. And we just have to be so discerning about keeping all of that as one unit, like you teach on the podcast.
Yes. And there's such a middle ground there. So Phylicia, I so appreciate your time today. It's been so just biblically sound and helpful. I'm really appreciative of you. Will you do us a favor and tell us where our listeners can find you online if they want to further connect or get your book?
Absolutely. They can find me at PhyliciaMasonheimer.com. That's where all of our books and theological resources are. They can find me on Instagram and Facebook under my name. And then we also have a shop account called Every Woman a Theologian, because that's our ministry. That's everything that we do. And that is where all of our updates and new books and new launches go, everything that we release there. And I have the privilege of interviewing different people who are experts in these fields, people who can speak to mental health, people who can speak to the theology of our bodies and what scripture says about that. I get to interview people like that on Instagram from time to time to do more deep dives into things like this.
Super cool. I love that. Well, I'm going to ask you my final question. I ask this to every podcast guest. It is, what's your favorite thing in your health journey right now that's making you feel like you?
Well, that's a great question. So I mentioned I had a chronic illness. It's in remission right now. Thank God. It's a hormonal pregnancy related chronic illness. So I have really struggled over the years with a lot of elimination diets and a lot of things like that I've had to do in order to find healing. And eventually the Lord just miraculously healed me. But that's a story for another day.
Wow.
And one of the things that have helped me so much, this is going to be so boring, is taking magnesium, which seems so silly, but it really has helped me in so many ways. And obviously you should talk to your doctor or your midwife or whoever to find out what kind exactly would help you. But it's helped my sleep. It's helped my body. It's helped my energy. It's helped my hormones and my mood. It's just been such a gift to find out like, oh, this was like the missing piece for so many of these other things I was dealing with. So magnesium gets the applause today.
Yay, I love it. That's so funny you say that though, because I just started taking magnesium. Well, long story short, I had Caroline Packard on here and she actually helps women with pelvic floor health and all kinds of things. And I can link back to that podcast episode, but she recommended magnesium on the episode. Well, then I started with a pelvic PT mama on Instagram. And she was like, the first thing I'm going to have you do is I'm going to evaluate your magnesium. I want you on a different one. Like, we're changing this. So I am obsessed that you said that. Thank you so much. It's coming full circle.
Love it.
All right. Well, Phylicia, thanks so much for joining us today. It was a joy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. You guys, thanks so much for joining me and Phylicia on the show today. I'm super grateful for your time you spent here with us. Y'all can tell that I could have talked a lot more with Phylicia. I could have talked your ear off, but she was so gracious to share her wisdom with us today. Make sure you check out her podcast, Verity, as well as her books, which we'll link in the show notes. And I hope you guys have such a beautiful day and that you really start to just think about what rhythms you can implement into your life to help you with your mind, body, and spirit, all those levels of health that we talked about today on the podcast. Thanks so much. If y'all think I'm a little crazy, just wait till my favorite guest joins me in the Marriage Corner. It's my hubby, Eric. Hey, we're back with another fun topic today, and y'all just might want to grab a glass of wine or something because Eric has brought a spicy one in today.
I always like to keep it spicy. And you were asking me the other day, Eric, what do you want to do for a segment on the Marriage Corner? And if you've listened before, I'll be pushing for more, I would guess, sexually related content topics.
He wants that sexual health season.
Sexual health season, sex sells. I'm always telling Heather. And I came across this article and I said, Heather, we need to discuss this article. I sent it to her, but it's a study actually. And the article is titled, Men with Higher Libido Are 69%, it's in parentheses, yes, really, end parentheses, less likely to die young than their peers, study suggests. So,
can you believe it?
The numbers don't lie. That's all I got to say. Researchers in Japan tracked 21,000 people for 7 years for this study. And the conclusion was men who were interested in sex were up to 80% less likely to die. What are your initial thoughts on that?
Well, that's pretty significant, number one. And number two, it's like, of course it was 69%. Of course they're getting these like crazy headlines, like such clickbait.
So yeah, there's definitely a clickbait situation here. And I'm not going to lie, I did send the link to some other friends, and the link title is different than the actual title of the study. The link title, when you send it off, is Horny Men Less Likely to Suffer an Early Death Than Their Peers, which I just found that amusing as well, too.
For sure.
But basically, researchers believe a low sex drive is a sign of poor health overall, such as a bad diet, obesity, or other chronic diseases. The study recruited 21,000 men and women from 7 cities within Japan, just a little bit north of Tokyo, it looks like primarily. And among the men, 7,032 or 82% said they were interested in sexual activity. And once again, the ages of these men, I think, was primarily in the 50s to 70s. So kind of the median age was right around 60. So a little bit older. Among men, 7,032, 82% said they were interested in sexual activity, while 636 said they had no interest in sex. So there was still quite a large difference between interested and not interested in sex.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of women are going to be listening to this and be like, don't worry, my husband's not the one that I'm worried about not wanting to have sex. It's me. So like from like you being a husband, maybe can you give a little insight into the best way that a wife can almost like talk with her husband about that? Or like, let's say that she's like in a weird time of her cycle and she's just not feeling it. Like, what is a way to say it without it being like this big, direct, like hit to their ego, you know, because it is a touchy subject in marriage.
You want me to speak towards women?
Yeah, because you're a man. Like if I were to say like, oh, I've got a headache and just lie about it all the time, would you be like, okay, this is getting fishy? Or like, what is the way that women can approach men best to like protect their marriage and protect the man's ego?
Well, I think it's kind of how we always talk about it, is just being honest about it, you know, and I think you do a great job of this. You know, I would say that you're very open to having sex. Like we communicate about it and be like, hey, I'm just not feeling it tonight. You know,
I'm really tired. I'm all touched out from the kids or whatever the case might be.
Yeah. And I can totally understand that, because there's definitely times as well, too, where I'm tired from work or whatever the reason may be. But I also think we definitely try, even if we have those feelings, because we know it's important either to me or to you to have that closeness, that intimate relationship. A lot of times we'll try and get past some of those hurdles and be with the other person because it's important to them, you know?
Yeah, so true.
So I think it's just important to be honest with how you're feeling. And then for whoever your significant other, your spouse, to respect that as well, too. And, you know, I really think that's going to make for a better, healthy sexual relationship moving forward.
Eric will even sometimes ask me like, what is it that like I would do that would make you feel closer to me or like leads more to that? You know what I mean? And I always tell him that it makes me feel really special when I feel thought of throughout the day. So I even think that that's a huge part of our communication, is just letting the other person know what you find is sexy. And it's not just that you're like, oh, it's like nighttime, we're in bed, and like for the first time all day today, I'm making you feel special just because you quote unquote like want to get something out of it. And so I think even us being willing to have those open dialogue makes us closer as a couple, and then allows you to know how to make me feel good and vice versa.
Yeah, I think most people are big words of affirmation people. So definitely throughout the day, if I can send you a text message, I mean, it can be something as simple, like you said, I'm just thinking about you, or it can be more overt, you know, it can be more honest. You know, as cheesy as this may sound, I sent Heather a peach emoji the other day, you know, just let her know I was thinking about that fine, you know. But there are other things where I'll message Heather a lot, like just, hey, I'm super proud of you with your business and everything you do for the kids. So, you know, I think it's important to mix it up. Also, too, like, don't have a end goal in mind. I mean, sometimes like, oh, yeah, I'm going to send Heather this text message and, you know, I'm going to get lucky tonight. I think there is part of that a little bit. I'm not going to lie. But really, you know, just genuinely, you know, think about those things that you appreciate about your significant other. And I guarantee that's going to go a long way to improving your sex life.
Because I do think sex starts so much outside the bedroom for women, especially like thinking about, you know, what is your love language? Like, how can your husband like appease that and you do that for him as well?
Yeah, I definitely agree. So going back to the study, one of the things it just says, a healthy sex life has long been linked to positive mental and physical health, that mind-body connection.
Mind-body connection.
You talk about so much, with experts recommending couples make love at least once or twice a week. What do you think about those numbers or that frequency?
I think Eric Brown's me living a long time.
I mean, this study is basically saying that my life is literally depending on how many times we have sex. How long do you want me to live? You know, so I'm all about this.
And I wonder if there's studies out that say how often most people have it on average. Like,
well, I think that was what that link was. I mean, in the study, it had a link to another study about, on average, 1 to 2 times per week has been linked to healthier mind, body, healthy lifestyles.
Well, I know that that's what they're recommending, but I'm wondering on average, what do Americans make time for?
Yeah,
yes.
That would be interested.
I think Americans might actually have sex less than other countries because we are so like busy and glorifying like being hurried. You're not feeling like, ooh, I want to slow down and have sexy time. You know what I mean?
It's true. All right. So going back to the study, what I was saying is the study divided people into men and women, those that were interested and those that were not interested in having sex. And then they tracked these participants over 7 years. And over those 7 years, there were 503 deaths recorded. So amongst the men, there were 352 fatalities. Of those 350 fatalities, only 4% said they had an interest in sex compared to 48% who said they did not have an interest in sex. That's a pretty big,
that's
pretty
a big
range.
Yeah.
For women.
Oh, I didn't know it included women in the study.
Yeah, there were 146 deaths. 1.3% were interested in sex and 1% had no interest. So it's a little bit closer with women as far as that's concerned. So once again, it goes to show that men need the sex.
Nobody's surprised by this.
Our lives are literally depending on it. I thought it was a very interesting study with some conclusions in there. I just want to talk about it with you.
Yeah, I always appreciate the scientific facts. And I mean, I do think that there is so much science that does show that like sex, feeling loved, appreciated, having that mental, physical, spiritual connection with your spouse and being intimate. I mean, that's going to serve everybody well, even though in the moment, sometimes you may not feel like it or you may be stressed.
Yeah.
I do think that there's value sometimes. And
so furthermore, specifically one of the quotes in the article, it says, furthermore, the absence of sexual interest may affect a range of inflammatory, neuroendocrine, and immune responses, which I find very interesting. And, I think there are many studies that show cortisol levels are decreased after having sex and, just all the hormonal benefits of that. And yeah, so not only from a mental health standpoint, but obviously from a physical health standpoint, also a great way to burn calories.
Boom, extra, just bonuses coming out everywhere.
So
mind, body, spirit connection. Wow. Many benefits.
I think the moral of the story, more sex.
More sex. There it is. Eric's like, and on that note, we got to go.
We got to go.
Oh, man. Actually, we got to get ready to go to a kid's birthday party. So, yeah, we got that coming up next.
There's nothing like a kid's birthday party that will take the sexual drive out of you.
So funny. Okay, you guys. Well, let us know what you thought about this study. And if you are a woman that's struggling with like your desire or hormones or something like that, please reach out to your doctor, your naturopath, your chiropractor. There are definitely like herbs and supplements you can take before going straight to like a birth control or hormonal fix. Y'all know that I really advocate for the more natural way of dealing with things first. And I also think that's something like you don't have to be afraid to pray about those things too. God designed sex for marriage. He designed it for the success of marriage. So it is a vital part. I think it's important that we talk about these issues. I know many, many women who have struggled with it from a physical standpoint, an emotional standpoint. And I think it's actually a bigger problem than what a lot of people realize, just the lack of desire or confidence. So I will also link back to Lindsay's episode where we talked in detail about sex and the healthiness of it and the goodness of it in marriage. But anyway, thanks for bringing that fun study today.
Anytime.
All right. Well, Eric's ready to go do some homework. Talk to y'all later. Have a great day. Bye. Hey, if you're loving the show, click that follow button on your podcast app. This will ensure you won't miss a single episode. I'll see you next time.